Okay, monthly report. We got some stuff in here, so let's check it out. New monthly report. Ship showdown. So the first thing I want to kind of jump to is there's something in here about medical. Okay. So we're going to kind of jump around this because I just want to pull out the bullet points. Art ships, I assume this is the Perseus? Oh, it's the Paladin. This image is the Paladin, more than likely. For announced ships, the Anvil Paladin progressed into Law 0 stage, having had feedback from the Grey Box Gate review action. The exterior, which was slightly behind the interior, has now caught up, allowing for further refinement between the two. Okay, Kruger L21 Wolf has released. Awesome. The glass shatter being excessively worn. Okay. Ironclad and Ironclad Assault progress towards white box reviews, with the team finalizing the asset kit that will be used across this and other Drake ships. Work on the RSI Aurora and Aegis Hammerhead kicked off to bring them up to current standards. We heard about the Aurora. Some of that is in the current patch with storage. The Mist Hull B entered pre-production following the approval of its updated concept. I fail to understand. Like, if we have the hull A, which is one type of hull, and then we have the hull C, which is the bigger type of hull, how do we not already have all the hull series ships? I never quite understood that. I assumed, right? Because isn't the B just a slightly bigger hull A? Right? And then the D and the E are just scaled up versions of the hull C. So I never really got why we don't have those, but apparently I needed reconcepting. So, alright, here's the big juice. In North America, the RSI Apollo Medevac and Triage continued to be prepared for release, with testing and bug fixing being the focus. Chips also supported the gameplay teams with medical gameplay adjustments. Some of the teams then moved on to an unrelated ship. The Perseus was Law 0. This is probably the Perseus elevator. Looks very much like the Reclaimer shaft. The RSI Perseus was prepared for its Law 0 gate review, with additional lighting and detail passes being done across both the interior and exterior. And Kraken pre-production phase continued. Ooh. Straight Kraken pre-production. Okay. Alright, so apparently that's not... Here we go. Team... In core gameplay, the team's focus continued on freight elevators, with further fixes to issues that put them into an unusable state, as well as improvements to the debug tool. They're continuing to look into a large range of other widely reported issues, such as unreliable med beacons and physics exploits. Okay? Improvements to medical ship functionality are in progress, including the addition of med gel, which will be required to allow respawning. Confirmed! Confirmed, bro. Can we zoom in a bit? We gotta zoom in a bit, bro. Confirmed. And it's on ships. The addition of med gel. So it's not goop, as everyone has been calling it, med goop. It is med gel is the official term. That's huge. That's actually enormous. Should be required to allow respawning. This will further differentiate the utility of the various medical vehicles in the game. These improvements also prompted some general improvements to the respawn flow. Okay. Devs are working to close out the functionality required to support a new creature's unique behaviors and attack moves. New creature. What y'all think about this new creature? Wonder what it could be. I hope it's not like fucking Valakar number 2 and Copion number 2. Or sorry, Copion number 3 and Valakar number 3. Or just the Apex Valakar. I hope it's like an actual new fauna, but we'll see. The engineering screen was then updated to show the rate of heat change for components and fixed various bugs. For item recovery, the team added the ability to disable components for ships that have been claimed. Huh? Disable components for ships that have been claimed. Okay. Additionally, items will now display a timer until they become bricked after they have been claimed by the original owner. Oh, it's in case you salvage someone else's components. Got it. This is also displayed to the other player as part of a notification when an item is bricked and a player attempts to use it. That's interesting. So this is item recovery tier 1 stuff, right? Because we don't have this yet for like guns even. That's interesting. For crafting, the team implemented the offline version. Hold on. For crafting, the team implemented an offline version of the blueprint service, which is used as a stand-in to support the player-bound blueprint library until the actual service starts development. They also finished the first playable prototype of crafting in a multiplayer environment. Hey, it's good to know they're still working on that. Good to know they're still working on that. Yeah, that was the tier 1. I never really, I don't remember them going into like ship components being a part of tier 1. So it's really interesting to see all of that. That was interesting. That's very, very interesting. Okay. For control surfaces, wow, this is a beefy ass section, my boy. Jeez, we saw this in an SEL not too long ago. The new looting UI, it looks really crispy. Very clean, very pristine. Alright. For control surfaces, improvements to the aerodynamic simulation were implemented, which should address jittering observed at low frame rates. Support for G-limiter was added to the new atmospheric flight mode, and NPCs now fly using control surfaces when in atmosphere. Internally, the team integrated the necessary work from Squadron 42 to conduct an internal playtest with various changes. These in turn prompted additional tuning improvements and bug fixes. Gotcha, Space. Yeah, anytime I hear item recovery, I always just think of like FPS gear and guns and shit. I guess that's probably, honestly, that's probably what's taking so long for tier 1 to come, is all that ship stuff. Further work supported for Maelstrom. Destroyed parts will now reduce thrust effectiveness, which also addresses a common exploit where non-critical ship parts are destroyed to improve acceleration. This also helps design in better defining when a ship is considered inoperable, even when not fully destroyed. I guess this works because destroying a part of your ship lowers the weight and thus increases your acceleration. Kind of like how racers take the guns off of their ships. Cockpit dashboards will now support the ability to physically animate and vibrate based on various factors. Examples of triggers include spaceships shooting their weapons. Okay. For quantum travel, the team worked on various bug fixes and polishing tasks, such as NPCs not being able to perform solo jumps. That's interesting, because we already have NPCs QTing in those new missions, that the ones we were doing last night. That's interesting. Uh, Quantum interdiction saw further improvements. Interdicted ships will also now have markers on them to make them more obvious to players who are performing the interdiction. Damn. Mantis buff, bro. Mantis buff, my boy. Interdicted ships will now have markers on them. That's crazy, bro. That's a huge Mantis buff. Turret weapons are now prevented from firing when aimed at the host vehicle. This will reduce the need for complex turret angle maps, which have caused turrets to aim up and down erratically as players rotate it around. Yeah, I get it. Will go depending on where you were. For radar and scanning, the team worked on various improvements to polish tasks, such as improved UI information about targets and better positioning of the scan information for very large targets. Transport also made good progress towards feature parity with the legacy transit system. This includes bringing it at parity with the current behaviors for instance hangars, scripting support for design, and also making necessary preparations for dynamic server meshing. Part of this initiative involves moving away from interpolated movement to utilize the physics system, which saw first pass implementation. Okay, are they talking about trams here? I think they're talking about the trains and shit. I don't know. The inventory rework is progressing well too, with the team implementing proximity looting, which will allow players to loot from unique nearby inventory containers simultaneously. The new UI has also had filters and search implemented. Where's the search? Here's the search. Tell me! Oh, there it is. I see it. Right here. Hourglass. This image is straight fire, bro. This image is gas. Look at this. You got new Babbage, you got all these tabs, bro. I'm just like... I look at this image and I'm a little confused because, like, don't you have to be at an item bank to do this? Right? This guy's just standing in the middle of the hab. Unless he's looking at the item bank here at the wall, you know, like we are the item bank looking at him. Which, in that case, that would make sense. But then you can, like, click down here and it will kind of let you loot this. See this personal. I guess this is like the other boxes around him. This thing has a timer on it. There's a lot to digest from this image. This one image is beautiful. I don't want to invest too much attention in this because I feel like it's still so far away that it will inevitably change by the time we get it. So, an upcoming event was given additional support to improve existing mission archetypes and better support mission availability scaling. I think the event for September is going to be a medical one. Or the event that drops when the Apollo drops will probably be a medical one. So I guess the event we get at the end of September, pretty much. Economy. Last month, the economy team progressed with the new iteration of the economy based on the data they gathered. They're currently looking into changes to buy and sell prices of FPS weapons, armor, and consumables. That's good. Also updating profit margins for salvage vehicles. Can we please get updates to selling? They put selling in the game in the most, like, jank way imaginable, bro. You know? Mission design. Added new Onyx facility stuff. Mission generation system. I think that's in the .1. The transit post is about the elevator space. Oh, okay. That makes sense. I was thinking it was about the trams. Yeah, it does make sense to instance the elevators. You know? They also continued... Okay, this work is ongoing, but it's very exciting already. Mission They has also continued their work to bring existing missions back into older locations, which will expand the pool of available locations for players and bring back various interesting encounters. Narrative, more ASD stuff. Branding and character art teams. Gameplay flows. Tutorial missions that will help players understand a new gameplay mechanic by being introduced in a future patch. That's actually huge. Last month, the team also worked with design on updating the text of a few older contracts to align with improved gameplay flows, as well as tutorial missions that will help players understand a new gameplay mechanic being introduced in a future patch. Okay, so like right now we have salvage contracts, but the contract doesn't really teach you how to salvage. So there might be like a tutorial salvage contract that's like, hey, this is how you use the ship. And go here, go sell the thing. Like, that kind of thing. There might be a tutorial medical mission. A tutorial mining mission would be huge. Mining is like the most well fleshed out thing in the game. So that would be really nice to have. Okay, online tech. This might be kind of huge because we're supposed to get a talk from Benoit soon about long-term persistence and a couple other things. In August, the online services team collaborated with QA to test the Stow Context API. Item Imprint v1 development continued as expected. With the blueprint library development done on the service side, interesting, related API development began. Again, this is all crafting and ultimately base building stuff, the blueprint library. Online technology also started the discovery phase for the instancing feature. The team is currently working on making the inventory API only accept calls if they affect a specific inventory ID. This is being done ahead of the Entity Graph global database sharding. Regarding the lazy inventory creation project, what the hell is that? It's all capitalized like it's a thing. The team worked on updating calls that could handle it and change the API accordingly. Essentially, the team wants inventories to be created if needed on certain calls. Whoosh. Meanwhile, live tools continue to enhance their internal support tool. Mission system. Discovery new entitlement service with Hex Knock. Okay. They're speaking in tongues, bruh. Yo no sé. Finally, in August, the networking team progressed with bug fixing and maintenance. Yep, we had a maintenance yesterday. The game was down for 4 hours. They also focused on mapping out their path towards instancing and dynamic server mission. R&D, engine and game code, VFX, nothing. Okay, so let's go to the top. Kind of slide down naturally. Was there anything else? The juiciest part, as always, was ships and core gameplay. These two sections were thick this time. So yeah, looking pretty chatterlicious. NPC weapon overheating. AI features. A feature initially developed for Squadron 42. Alongside this, a new firing validator was also introduced for charged weapons. The logic for trigger control was reworked and various issues were fixed. Pre-firing stages were also added for NPCs using weapons. As previously, they would only use charged weapons while in cover. A fix was also submitted to tackle an issue preventing NPCs from shooting after their first trigger pull. We'd spot destruction and distortion damage. The team are also improving the overall experience for the Copion, starting with fixes to stabilize the flee behavior. Better coordination of NPCs with groups with leaders. The devs also added improvements to automatically calculate when an NPC is alone, or not to better filter what they can say and when. I know they had that recent Evo test, but it didn't go too well from what they actually had an Evo test yesterday. I haven't heard a peep about it, but it involves new AI behavior as well as Vulcan. Pathfinder, Starscript, punish idle behavior. Copion animation. I think that's it, guys. Facial animation, mocap, more SSN newsflash. This got leaked by Pipeline, but I haven't seen it in the game. Sitcon Direct. Yeah. Waiting on that Sitcon Direct. Armor for a new gang and supported requests for subscriber flare items and Sitcon Direct. They also continue to work on variants for gameplay rewards and store items. Exploration phase for new heavy armor. Okay. And yeah, that was pretty much it. A bunch of community stuff. Not too juicy there. Sitcon direct schedule for October 11th. Wow, that's closer. Objects in mirror are closer than they appear, bro. That's crazy. Yeah, well, that's that. Huge takeaways are the medical thing confirmed. They will be limiting respawns. It is confirmed. Maelstrom. And a bunch of stuff in the ship section. The whole B entering pre-production. And the Ironclad. And there was something about the Kraken. Yeah, the Kraken pre-production phase continuing. 5 weeks till Sitcon, guys. Let's go.